Hey there, welcome back to Make His Path Straight. Let's join together in our third installment on the fear of the Lord, because you and I, we want to climb to Bible ground. That's our goal here today together, isn't it? We talked about the importance of fearing the Lord. What's that? Because it's the beginning of all things wise. Let's put ourselves in a position to receive those things, and not only just things, secrets that God has for you and me, right? So we talked about dread and desire. And these are such important characteristics of fear of God. Today, we're going to talk about recognition of his nature. It's so important for you and I to recognize God's nature. It sounds pretty simple, but it's complex. Because if we recognize his nature, as we learn about his nature, then you and I will understand how to fear him. Because there's some very powerful verses relative to his nature. And let's discuss those right now. As always, put on those lead shoes, go through these verses slowly and cautiously, and don't be afraid. Stop the video, meditate on what you see, or make a note of the verses that we cover together, and do them alone in private with your own studies to review this material, okay? Look what Paul has to write. Oh, the deepness of the riches, both of the wisdom and knowledge of God. That's his nature. Do you see that? Wisdom, knowledge, the deepness. Paul is so inspired by that. And he goes on to say, how unsearchable are his judgments, how his ways are past finding out. Look at God's nature. It's amazing who he is and what he has to say. The letter to the Acts. We ought not to think that the divine nature is like gold or silver or stone, an image formed by the art and thought of man. It's not like that at all. God is not like that. God is not something that you and I can think up in our heads or fashion with our hands. It's much more complex than that. Let's see what Paul had to write. For by him, look at this now, by him, all things, stop, slow down. All things. Is there anything missing from the word all? All things were created in heaven and on earth, visible, invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers and authorities, right? Everything created by God. There is no creature hidden from his sight, but all things are open and laid bare to the eyes of him with whom we have to do. I beg your pardon. Everything open to his eyes. Think about his nature. Contemplate that with me just a little bit. All things are open and laid bare. Because we do know some things, for you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ. We know his grace, but let's consider these aspects of his grace. That though he was rich, though he was with God at the foundation of the world, yet for your sake he became poor. Think about God's nature. What made him do that? He was rich. He was dwelling in heaven. He was with God when the earth was made. He formed the world himself by an act of his words. And yet for our sake, what happened to him? He became poor. For what reason? Why did he do this? So that, very important words there, so that you by his poverty might become rich. Ah, what a beautiful nature. What a sacrificial nature. Oh, the deepness of the riches, both of the wisdom and knowledge of God. Also, Isaiah gives us a great insight here, that they may see and recognize and consider and gain insight as well. These are the reasons that God does what he does. He wants us to recognize, to gain insight into his nature. Why? That the hand of God has done this, and the Holy One of Israel has created it. So you and I right now, we sit at an opportunity right here in this place, you and I, just us, to have a chance to stop and think about his nature. Who he is, what he has done for the world, what he's done for us. The recognition of his nature is such an important component of the fear of the Lord. And we want this for ourselves, right? Because we want to act more wisely. And we need to anxiously look for God's secrets that he has stored up for us. Why? Because we're going to fear his name, We're going to dread his displeasure. We're going to desire that his favor. We're going to do things that pleases him. And then we're just going to stop long enough to know who we're dealing with, Our next lesson is going to be on the resignation to his will. Resignation to his will. One of the key aspects of fearing God is to say, hey, I'm trying to get out of this situation. Here's my expectations. Here's my plan. Oh, God, do what I ask you to do. No. We need to resign ourselves We need to fear God by saying, you know, God, you do know better. You're the one who matters. You're the one I should count on. I'm going to resign myself to your will. Now, I would encourage you then to subscribe to this little channel. Not trying to set any records here, but in order that you might get notification when there's a new post going on. Down below, you'll see some communication opportunities for you. Take advantage of that. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll do my very best to get back to you, and we can dialogue and go through these things together. That's a text-only number there. So until then, until next time that we meet together, may the Lord bless you as you go.